Hi everyone, Barry Carter here. We're going to try something a little bit different today. Any video I've done with Dara previously, I tend to cherry pick hands where I either think I played them very well or very badly, and then we do a GTO analysis using software and Dara's experience. Today, I am going to show Dara a recording of a session that I played on Sunday, and I'm not going to make any real comments. I'm just going to let him see what I did, and my plan is for him to identify some leaks that I have that I don't necessarily know I have. And then at the end of the session, I want Dara to give me a little homework assignment on the areas of my game what I have to work on, because yeah, it's very, very useful to have a more experienced player point out things where you might have a complete blind spot. Dara, are you do you understand the brief?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so Sunday session will go top left is table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bottom right is table 6. Quick note, top left is table 1 is a free roll tournament. Unibet have a monthly free roll for VIP, whatever you want to call it. Top right is a satellite. Everything else is a regular vanilla freeze out. So we're just going to watch, and if something needs further explanation, tell me to pause. So free roll on the left, I've just opened shoved. This is a value bet as far as I'm concerned because it's a free roll. I have isolated and under the gun razor because I've got the button. I'm pretty certain he'd done this a couple of times, which is why I isolated there. Going for a small bet on a paired board.
Yeah, I like the small bet. That should flush out most of his misses.
Mm-hmm.
I might have actually checked the turn there, just as a pure exploit.
Right.
In the Queen Jack hand.
Yep.
Because given that we're range betting and he's called, our range hasn't really strengthened and his range has, and the Queen doesn't hit us all that often. He can still have a 7, of course. You know, this kind of player, but I think we won't worry too much about that part of the range. It's more kind of when he has a weaker part of his range. I think he will give up on the turn with all of his stuff that is missed completely, or you know, was ace high or whatever. But he might actually get a bit more married to it on the river. I also think we have a lot of hands, weaker hands, that are just going to have to check back there. So we kind of protect our check back range by checking. It's not so much what a solver would say there, but I think in practice, I think in those spots where you range bet flop and then you do actually improve on the turn, as in you hit a pair. I think as a pure exploit, that's actually a good spot to check.
Got it.
They might bluff the river as well.
So bottom table 5, we had a under the gun raise. I flattered with aces. My logic for flattening with aces is that we had a 10 big blind stack in the big blind. I felt that he might squeeze in a spot like that, and if not, we can easily get 20.
Yeah, I think flattening with aces is also a good idea anyway, because you're always going to have top pair. You're always going to have an overpair or top set. So I like that. And yeah, you can just get it in. Just call. Yeah. Okay. So you got very unlucky there, but most of the time that'll work out. I think there's an important point there. Sometimes players will look at a hand like that and they'll immediately start thinking about how could I have won the hand, and therefore they think they've made a mistake. But this is very much an outlier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stacking ace king there all the time.
Stacking ace king. You're stacking any king.
King jack, yeah.
And you're stacking on his bluffs as well if he's the type to just keep betting because
exactly. Yeah, that was what my thinking. Yeah. I wrote the word free roll on a post-it note just to explain why I might take some unusual lines in the top left table.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think in free rolls, like you can see the first prize, the min cash is not very much, and even
it's not very much.
Like I think you should actually just massively ramp up your variance too, because your hourly is going to be bad if you just play that like optimally.
Yeah. It's this particular, just to give you a bit of a plug. This particular free roll is for VIP players, 800, 1,200 players. From experience, they don't. About 800 of them don't know they're in the tournament, which is why they're always good value. If you just hold on for a while and then you suddenly see like half the tournament field disappear in one orbit for that reason. So
yeah. I started in free rolls, and that was always the case. They just reached a point where, exactly like you say, half the players disappear in a few hands because they're the guys who are blinded out. Okay, the ace jack, I guess, is the most interesting hand here.
Yeah, it's also, I can't remember what happens here, but it's also a type. Oh, I do remember what happens here. This is interesting. Go on, and I said I wasn't going to. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to pause this and just let you watch things, but I'm curious with what you think there.
I think this is cuspy, as Shulman would say. Ace queen, I'm definitely sticking it in, and ace 10.
Yeah.
This feels like I could go either way, to be honest. Probably kind of. I would actually take other factors into account here, like how many tables I have on screen, and what other good stuff is on. On a Sunday, there's so much good stuff on at peak between 6 and 8, that I actually tend to take these spots more on the basis that, well, if I bust, you
can register something good. That's an interesting point.
Register another tournament that would be very profitable as well. Whereas if this is towards the end of my session and I'm not registering stuff, I'll probably just pass this spot on the basis that I can get better spots.
Yeah, I do actually fold it. The interesting thing is, if the small blind had got out of the way, I think this is a snap call.
Oh yeah,
if the small blind was a tiny bit shorter, I also think this is a snap call.
And I think if he had the same stack, it's a snap fold. So the fact he's halfway that makes it awkward.
Yeah, typically I had both guys absolutely dominated, but there we go.
We won't be too results based. Yeah, so far I'm not really seeing anything that you're really doing wrong, which is what we were looking for.
Oh no, you will. Don't worry.
I believe. Yeah, king queen is probably strong enough to limp call as well, but shoving is fine too, obviously. One of the nice things about limping a hand like king queen is if he has king jack or king 10, he's probably going to stick it in king 9.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
This is going to be tricky now. The king 9 suited.
I'm glad you think this is tricky because I didn't snap fold this.
Yeah. You're getting a really good price here, and you're shallow, so you're not too worried about domination. So yeah, I quite like the call here.
Oh, good.
The fact that we're suited will flop equity to continue to one bet, and he'll have a lot of bet one then shut down spots where we can bluff.
Yeah, I'm actually happier with a hand like king 9 than I would be with, say, an ace jack in a spot like that. For
well, king 9 suited, I think the suitedness is vital because you need to be able to flop the flush draws and the backdoor flush draws. Pocket 2s probably, that's a shove. It's going to be fairly marginal, but it's fine. It's also a hyper, so you have to take every spot.
It says hyper, but these particular party ones aren't that hyper, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop again because I think I've identified a leak of mine in the last week. So I'd never shove pocket 5s from here, and for me, pocket 6s is just the line of where I'd probably play it 10 big blinds from any position. Am I overvaluing the hand there, Dara? Or
no, I think that's fine. I know you said we weren't going to check
you want me to,
but I am actually going to check this one just in case.
Do you want me to bring it up on screen and
no, I'll just report it. Let me see what I'm doing here. Study.
We'll keep this running while we're going.
Pocket sixes under the gun. Yeah, actually, you can actually go lower. You can even go down to fives and fours, but yeah, fours is making pretty much nothing. Fives is, well, actually, it depends whether you're nine-handed or, yeah, actually sixes is the line, nine-handed.
Right. Okay. But either way, you know, if I fold, nothing terrible is going to happen there, is there?
No. Like at an eight-handed table, fours is pretty much break even, and fives makes a little bit of money. So
okay. For people wondering, the party poker screen name is
I definitely open the queen jack there. Just look at all the short stacks behind. Like you're effectively the cutoff there.
Right. Okay. Even okay. Free roll. People call too much. Would you?
Doesn't matter. If they call too much, that's fine. You're actually going to be ahead of a lot of the calls. So,
yeah. For people wondering about the party pocket screen name, I changed my name just when Phil Hellmuth was calling himself Apex Predator, so I thought it was funny. And then you know, a year or so on, I just look like a douchebag.
I was really going to ask you about it, but then I remembered. I did remember the Hellmuth calling himself Apex Predator. Okay.
So it's like
a joke was just current for about a week.
A joke was funny for a week, and then I just look like I really mean it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Questionable hand here, Dara. Player limped for wow, 20 big blinds, and I open shove with king 10 there. That's seems a bit loose in hindsight.
20 bigs.
Let me just screw it back a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty bad if it's 20 bigs.
Yeah, it was.
Because remember, like he should be limping fairly polar, so he has the really strong stuff and the really weak stuff, and like your shove really doesn't achieve much. It gets all that stuff to continue and folds out the stuff that you're actually in good shape against. You should be pretty, like you can shove all your pairs there. It's just a kind of a raw equity shove, and all of your aces. Actually, that should be really your shoving range: aces and pairs. Everything else should just check behind.
In value bet on the table.
I like this. I like this. People don't tin value bet enough.
Interesting satellite spot here. So min raise from under the gun. I have 11 big blinds, pocket freeze. I go for the stop and go here. That seemed to me like the only thing to do with freeze other than fold them. And this seems like a pretty good flop for a stop and go. You a fan of this?
Stop and go, or you could check raise all in as well if you think he's going to auto C bet.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if he auto C bets, then if we price him, if he feels priced in, then we can get counterfeited quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, you're shoving for 2x pot though. So when you stop and go, so if he bets small and you shove, it's still going to be a pot size shove, and he should accordingly. But yeah, if you think he's always going to call, then as an exploit just to open shove.
Yeah,
it's just kind of hard to imagine you do that with an 8 though. So
yeah, I'm banking on him having Ace X, King X, not.
Yeah, honestly, you should probably be calling Ace X because
yeah. Because I've probably got a lot of Ace X doing that as well, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm typing the words free roll in for this 37 big blind shove. This is a value bet. That's not.
That's
not trying to thin it.
We could also just 3-bet normal. But yeah, shoving is fine too. Shoving anything up to 40 big blinds is actually fine in those spots. Yeah, the Ace-4 is perfectly played, even though he's he's jack. You're effectively the big blind there. Like in these spots where there's lots of people super short, the way you kind of think about those spots is they're just not there. So when you
go on.
So like for example, when you're in the low jack, but two of the guys between you and the button, are super short, then you just open your cutoff range.
Yeah, but the table 6, I've defended with 8-9 suited. I've actually called with a gut shot on the flop. I don't know. I think that's just a field play that feels like something I should do. I don't have a particular explanation with it other than I've got some potential backdoors as well.
I'd consider leading the turn.
Yeah,
because when the flop goes check bet call, the out of position player's range strengthens, the in position players doesn't. And therefore you should be doing a lot of leading on the turn with value, and the best hands to lead as bluffs are the hands that you don't mind folding, but have something like a gut shot.
Yeah. I think I would have if I picked up a spade on the turn.
Definitely if you picked up a spade,
yeah.
Or if your gutter improved.
Bottom right again, open 36 big blinds. I just hate free betting here.
Yeah, I think the three bet there will narrow the range to hands that you're not going to shape against. So you might as well keep all the weaker hands in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to do this with 20 big blinds, or if I've got 100 big blinds.
Yeah.
But 35 big blinds is a really awkward spot for something like this.
Agreed. Yeah, again, because the big blind is sitting out there, you effectively have your big blind range.
Yeah. There is a slight read on I'm fat in real life. I have played against him. He is quite aggressive. That was an inducing bet for sure.
Yeah. Well, you should be inducing anyway with that hand. Like as I said, you have your big blind range, so you should actually be doing lots more calling. So your three betting range should be polar. And it should be really very the stuff at the top should be very strong, stuff that's happy to get it in, and the stuff at the bottom should obviously be weak enough that you're not very unhappy if you have to fold it, and then everything else just gets called, all the stuff in the middle.
I haven't put another table in the middle because the other Unibet free roll is about to start and pop up in the middle one there. So I'm not broke after two buy-ins lost.
All your accounts.
Yeah,
shove with the jacks there. I like it. Just fold out flips here behind. You're not going to fold out a flip ahead, but from the razor. Well, I guess you got king queen to fold. Interesting spot. Because this is three-way the ace king, you should be betting more often than you would heads up. So
I also bet larger than I would heads up for similar reasons. I don't know what you think about that.
I think you should bet smaller.
Oh, okay. Go on.
Rather than larger, because people are going to play more straightforward. So they're going to, they're not going to float you or stuff. And you give them a pretty simple decision when you bet that size. They just continue with the really strong stuff but the weaker and then fold the weaker stuff. So I think you should generally start off with a small bet.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. I'm pretty certain there's another multi-way spot where I flop something really good and go for a small bet. And I do get a little bit confused in these spots sometimes.
Yeah. The problem when you have top pair as well is that you're blocking so many of their continues that that's a hand that when you bet it, you should go a smaller size. Like if you have middle set, it's different because they have much more top pairs now. But when you have top pair yourself, it's much less likely they have top pair. King queen suited is the interesting one here. Shove.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, deny equity. You've got good equity against the calls.
See, I'm thinking I've got a hand that plays really well in position.
It's really well in position, plays really well multi-way, but it's a monster heads up. and you're just allowing the guy to realize equity. And you can actually fold out worse hands. Like if he's done that with ace 2 off, he's not going to call it off. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, the suited hands make very good shows there, because even when you run into it, having that additional equity is great.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, actually. I recently took a bit of a deep dive into GTO Wizard to look at how to play 15 to 18 big blind spots, because I was in a quandary of, do I open these or do I just shove these hands? And my default was to shove a lot. And then I expected to see the ranges to be we open the suited hands that play well, like 9, 10, Jack 10 suited and stuff, and then we shove like ace 6 off because it's got good raw equity. But actually it's the other way around. GTO Wizard suggests that you open a hand like ace 6 off because you can bet fold it, but you will shove a hand like king jack suited, because
it really sucks to have to fold that.
But also it kind of, I guess also it's because it performed, it wants to see 5 cards, I guess is the logic there. It will hit stuff if you give it enough cards.
Yeah, that additional equity is super important. You also see the same in reshoves. Like there's a lot of spots against tight opening ranges where you actually shove stuff like queen jack suited, king jack suited. Even though the offsuit combinations aren't strong enough to even play in some cases, but they just make good reshoves because they have blocker qualities, they have extra equity when they're called, they fold out better hands. Like if you shove a hand like queen jack and king jack or king queen folds, that's an amazing result. And also if you're not closing the action, there are actually hands which play really well multi-way.
Yeah, that's the other thing. This is something we learned in the PKO book, of course. That you actually don't mind getting king jack suited in 3 ways.
Which it seems really
it's very counterintuitive to how we learned the game, and that was a quote unquote dominated hand. No, they perform well multi-way.
Good to see you working all the free rolls, Barry. You're obviously taking advantage of the many promotional extras there are for regular players on Unibet.
No, there's 2 good ones. This one in particular, the one that's just popped up, the €3,000 January special, is really good value because 744 players. I'll let you do the maths on what the equity.
It's basically worth more than £4.
And but the thing is, like I said, of the 746 players, I actually would suggest that only about 150 are actually playing in this tournament.
So now it's a 20 quid free roll.
And then, but also then, like, there's at least 70 of them that aren't playing, and they're very strange in that you get the money in early with you'll get called very wide, but when it gets to the actual bubble, people really, really want to get something for nothing, and it plays tighter than something they pay for.
Yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon. I mean, I even feel it myself when I play free rolls and I look at my screen and I go like, oh, we're only 100 from the money and I paid absolutely nothing for this tournament. The min cash is only $1, but the idea of paying $1 for nothing is like,
something I'm also curious about at the moment is am I over isolating with certain hands and stuff? And ace 3 suited, obviously you're going to isolate with a hand like this because lots of good things can happen. But would you do this with ace 3 off in a spot like this?
It depends on the player who's opening. If they're limping far too much, then you should basically isolate anything that you would raise. If they hadn't limped, and in fact maybe even a little bit wider. But it depends on what they do after the flop as well. Like if they're very, very straightforward and they're just going to check fold a lot, then just go wider. If the players behind aren't reacting to it, go wider. But if the players behind are likely to flat, now you would rather have a hand like 7-6 suited than ace. Well, actually, ace 3 suited is fine, but you'd rather have a hand like 7-6 suited than ace 6 off, or ace 3 off. So there's quite a lot you have to think about. Limpers are the hardest to play against, and there's I've done some content on this. There's specifically 4 types of limpers, and you play against them all very differently. There's trappers, there's maniacs, there's stations, and I can't remember the 4th type off the top of my head, but oh yeah, there's the guys who
just wants to see a flop and then
just want to see a flop. Exactly. Yeah. So they basically have capped ranges.
Yeah. So yeah,
this is too big multi-way.
Yeah.
Just go small. Like, you just give them too easy a decision. Bet a size which makes them have to think about, what if I have an under pair? Maybe I'm supposed to call now. What if I have a gut shot? What if I have a runner hand?
I think it probably comes back to an old school not modern player mentality of I just think I'm going to get sucked out on more.
Well, it hurts when you get sucked out on. So
yeah.
But people play more straightforward. Like, they'll fold more because they have to worry about the other players in the pot.
Yeah.
So therefore, small bets have more fold equity.
It's unusual to see this at double speed and seeing all these folds in supergroup times. Quite I presume there's players who can play this fast, but six tables is my maximum at normal speed.
Did the guy just see bet 4-5 there into 2 players on the ASI board? Wow, that's pretty horrendous.
Again, ace-9 off. Like, this feels like an easy isolation.
Well, it would be an open if it came around to us. So
yeah,
I think we should isolate. Yeah.
What do you think of my isolation size here? It's because I'm quite short myself. I didn't want to make it any bigger. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, if this was 100 big blinds, I'd be raising to 4 there. I think.
Yeah. I like the call. Just keep them firing.
Yeah, keep the bluffs in.
Yeah, we're never folding, so just keep all the bluffs in. And if he has a better ace, so be it, or he has 2 pair, so be it. Yeah, shove with 12 big blinds is perfectly understandable. I guess we're going for a bluff catch on the last hand.
Yeah, ace 8 off is for me a bluff catching ace. I've got to have some check calls in my range, and ace 8 off neither makes a wheel nor dominates any other aces, so it feels like a bluff catching hand. It's exciting. We're going to load up
as well.
We're going to load up some iPoker games by the looks of things.
Yeah, I like the screen name there.
What's my screen name on this one?
The ICM book.
Oh, the ICM book, yeah. That's because I was doing some book promotion for Grosvenor last time I played on iPoker. So probably edit out. Trying to find which game to play next. The APAC Sunday tournament is quite a soft one to do because it's there's no guarantee, but it's all the people that play live playing their one online game of the week.
Okay, I would have assumed that was a closed tournament.
No, there used to be password and stuff like that, but they've got to deal with party poker, and they invite you occasionally see like a Polish or name or something like that, but for the most of it, it's just Bob Smith from Dinnington or something. It's no offense to my people, but it's mostly crap British
all the
players.
Bob Smiths out there watching the video.
Yeah.
I never know whether you're better off choosing a really unusual name or a very common name, because there's a good there's a significant chance somebody called Bob Smith is listening. But on the other hand, if you chose a really weird name and that person happened to be listening, they'd really feel singled out.
Yeah.
Okay, the sixes should just shove over any open.
I just wrote the word misclick because I meant to open shove the sevens there, but I opened reason.
Yeah,
Sorry, you're saying sixes should be playing against
sixes should just be shoved against any open here.
Yeah. I think that's what happens.
Yeah, just stick it in. I would shove again. The fact that we've shoved last hand.
Yeah, I remember this hand, and that definitely because I sometimes would flat here, and very occasionally I'd re small min raise, just because we block a lot of hands that would call there. But I think the fact that we've done it 2 in a row.
Yeah, no, it's always a good exploit because they're much more likely to make a spike call the second time.
Looks like I'm ready to go to the Bob Smith streets for this one.
Yeah, you're hunting Bob Smith.
You always use big blind view for your vanilla tournaments?
I do, yeah. I do try to do that, yeah. Yeah, I like to fold with the king jack off. That's a hand people overplay from early position.
I actually missed that. Which table was that on?
Table 6. You just open.
I just open fold it. Yeah. King jack suited, I'd play probably.
King jack suited should be played. And if it gets
positions.
shallower, we probably start opening king jack off because we're more incentivized to steal the blinds. But
yeah, exactly.
30 big blinds is just an awkward. That's one of the reasons why 30 big blind stacks suck, incidentally, because you don't get to open those hands.
No, exactly. It's you and I have talked about this, but there's short stacks are very profitable to play. Big stacks are very profitable to play, but sort of 25 to 35 big blinds are an absolute fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
On my spot. Do you open shove 10s here? Can you do something a little bit more cute with them? Under the gun raise, 24 big blinds effective.
You're talking about the 10s?
Yeah. Do you do anything other than shove?
No, just shove them. That's the best thing to do there. You'll fold out some flips. And you avoid having to fold on flops that have overcards on them.
Yep.
Ace 2 off plays horribly multi-way, but you're getting such an amazing price. Your cards really don't matter there. But oh wow, you're actually ahead. That's a beautiful river. Yeah, I like the fact you sized up there as well. People are likely to think you're just blocking there because it's gone check the whole way. The 10-2 suited won't be strong enough to shove if it comes around. A lot of players will shove it just on the basis that it looks like it's a reasonably nice hand, but you're actually much better off waiting for better spots than that. The 4-7 won't be a defend. Yeah, it's just when you're that shallow. In a sense, it's nice being shallow, but even if you flop a pair there, you're not going to feel good against an early position opening range. Yeah, I like the isolation, obviously, with the ace queen as well. Terrible flop, but we might as well bluff at it. Interesting river spot. Yeah, I guess we had showdown there, so the check is fine.
Pay attention to the top right. It's gone check. He raised under the gun. I re-raised. Check, check. Every street.
Yeah. I'm very tempted to call there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
like
did.
to call. It just, yeah. I mean, he's going polar really. Like he's not doing that with weak pair. I don't
Yeah,
think.
well, I just think he would have put some money in before the river
Yeah, the
with
fact you
a
beat all the
river pair.
bluffs there, just yeah. Yeah, that is a spot where I think probably people do over bluff, where it just gets checked to the river and it's a scary run out. Jack eight suited. Interesting. You've got gutter and backdoor here. Yeah, I like just calling at this stack depth. If we check raise, we're going to have to fold to a shove. Yeah, there's nothing else you can do there, and you play that fine. If we were deeper, we could check raise our hand on the flop. Call with the fives is fine as well. It's a small bet.
I mean, he's never bluffing, but we can't fold really.
No, we can't fold.
Oh, and that's where we end. So it's funny actually, because I actually went into this session, ended this session thinking, "Wow, I played like dog shit." But you actually didn't have that many criticisms of anything I did there.
No, you played
So,
you played very well. Like often you just get tricky spots and you feel like you're playing badly, and then other times you get no tricky spots and you feel like you're playing like a genius, but you might have a couple of mistakes in there. The big takeaway for me was just work on your sizings multi-way. They're too big in general. Particularly when you have top pair, because when you have top pair, you're blocking too many of the continues. So you want to size down. But in general, you want to size down anyway, because they're, people will call fairly wide heads up. They'll call gut shots and any pair and ace highs, but they'll fold most or all of those hands multi-way if they have to worry about the other player. Usually multi-way spots are somebody in position and the big blind, and that's a spot where you should actually, on certain boards, you should bet more often than if it was heads up, you against the position, because the guy in position has to worry about the big blind as well, and will actually do a lot more folding because of that. But that also means that when you're value betting, you should be betting smaller too, so that you're getting paid off more often.
Yeah, I think I alluded to it earlier, but I think there's just a mentality that when you multi-way, there's just bigger hands and bigger draws out there. But I suppose the other way of thinking about that is there's just more misses as well.
There's more misses as well, yeah. And like the way you make it difficult for them is you bet relatively small on the flop. Now they have to continue with quite a lot of marginal hands, and then you size up on the turn if you're up against one player. And now the value part of your range is getting value, and the bluff part, and you get to do more bluffing, and you put their wide weak range in a much more difficult spot. Knowing, because if they just fold all the stuff that wasn't super strong on the flop, but they called because the size was small, then you're printing because you're winning the pot always, and you're actually winning that extra money that went in on the flop as well.
Yeah, good. Oh well, thank you, Dara. It's that's good. That's definitely something I can work on. Poker Snowy is obviously the tool there to work on the multi-way pots, and it's yeah, you're right. It always involves the big blind. That's an interesting thing to sort of
I did
when you're reviewing these pots.
I did a session for Jacket coaching on multi-way, and the way I always advocate people study multi-way when it comes to it is look at what's different about it from if it was heads up. Because most of us know how to play heads up spots pretty well at this point. That's what all the solvers and trainers focus on. So look at what's different about, say, under the gun versus button when the big blind is in the hand, compared to under the gun versus button when the big blind isn't in the hand. Or look at how different it is, how Yeah, like what you'll typically find in those spots is that you actually you size down, and your betting range changes somewhat as well. Often top pair becomes a check, particularly on dry boards, because you're up against two players, and you're going to have to do a lot of checking anyway. So you protect your checking range by checking the top pairs that block their continues to your bets. But you will bet more with, say, middle pair or bottom pair that has a backdoor, because you can actually get better hands to fold. Like on King 9-4, if you bet
Ace-4 with a double
with a backdoor on that, you'll actually get
Jack
five,
9 to fold.
Five, sixes, and sevens all to fold, which is obviously a great result. But at the same time, when you run into the calls, you can improve to a better hand because of the backdoor, and you also give yourself barrels on the turn. So look at those differences. Set up a spot which is multi-way, and then set up the same spot which is just heads up. Again, usually against the big blind, usually doesn't matter too much. His presence, his play won't really change much from heads up. If you bet he's going to, and the other guy folds, he's going to continue more or less the same range as he would heads up. But the player who is in essence squeezed is the guy who's called in position and who now has to worry about the big blind. He'll fold a lot more, and that therefore changes your betting range and your bet sizings as well.
Would you say that you tend to you should play a lot more straightforward with your good value hands?
Completely straightforward, totally straightforward.
Because you, myself, and David had a session where we looked at multi-way pots last year, and that was the big takeaway for me. I was checking a lot with really good nutted hands, because my logic was somebody's going to bet, somebody's going to have a piece of this. But you're right, but people actually tend to check back a little bit more. So I actually do tend to lead out now with my very, very good hands in those spots.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me of another thing as well, which is that in say a three-way spot, opener, flatter in late position, and big blind, on certain boards you'll actually see the big blind lead a lot more than they would heads up, and that's because they don't want it to go check, which it will a lot. Like obviously there are boards where big blind even heads up with it, usually low card boards where they have more straights than the opener. But what actually happens on a board like, say, a low card board like 8-7-5, is that often you'll see the big blind, the Snowy wants to actually lead the stronger pairs, 8x, and it'll lead all the two pairs as well. The value actually shifts more towards the leads shift more towards strong value and strong draws rather than weaker value hands and weaker draws, which typically is the case heads up. Heads up in that spot, the big blind will often lead like middle pair and bottom pair, but top pair not so much. And won't lead sets or two pair. But going back to the point of just playing more straightforward multi-way often the big blind will only lead with top pair or better for value. Because they don't want it to get checked around. Even when they have a set, they'll tend to lead because they're just losing value by not leading if it goes check. And when they have top pair, you have more equity denial. If they have 4 random overcards, that's twice as bad. You're going to get sucked out on twice as much with an 8. So you do actually see more leading, but the range becomes much more straightforward. It's just a strong draw which doesn't mind that people call because can hit the turn or the river, but not a weak draw because that won't improve often enough, or a strong value hand because that can get called by worse second pair or third pair or 2 overcards, but also doesn't like when it checks around.
Well, thank you, Dara. People watching the video, if you like this type of content, let us know because we could do it again. I am I suspect a similar level to our target audience. So by all means, use me for your guinea pig if anyone has any suggestions for future content like this. But Dara, thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry, and well played.